I'm Sunny Cheung, a student activist in Hong Kong who was invited to testify in the US Congress last year to talk about the situation of Hong Kong. Thank you for your invitation. Hong Kong's autonomy is facing unprecedented threats. The extradition bill proposed last year sparked off the year-long social movement. Hong Kongers experienced tremendous oppression from the CCP regime and the Hong Kong government. Police brutality had never stopped. No police officers are officially arrested or punished because of the excessive use of force and sexual assault against detainees. The extradition bill sparked worries about Hong Kong's freedom, as anyone in Hong Kong can be extradited to the PRC. Even though the legislation process of the extradition bill has been stopped, Hong Kong's freedom is facing greater threats than last year. Last month, CCP bypassed Hong Kong Legislative Council and planned to implement national security law directly in Hong Kong. This further challenged Hong Kong's limited freedom and autonomy. The setup of the national security law means National Security Agency in mainland China can set up branches in Hong Kong to detain and arrest anyone in the name of protecting national security. Promoting democracy and seeking justice has been somehow undermining PRC national security from CCP's point of view. Such move is turning Hong Kong into PRC. One country, two systems is going to be one country, one system. This is not surprise that the US government believed Hong Kong is no longer an autonomous region from China. Hong Kong is at the forefront in the battle against the evil CCP. Speaking of police brutality, many protesters had come forward with allegations of torture when they were in custody. The Hong Kong branch of Amnesty International had released a report last September saying that the Sun Oak Lane Detention Center, where the police sent a number of detainees to the hospital from that detention center, raising a lot of criticism that substantive injuries had been made during detention instead of arrest. What's more, the police also assaulted and detained journalists, human rights observers, and people who were first aiders in the movement. The police maintained hostility against journalists and observers throughout the past year. Those who strive to report the truth are addressed as rioters, pointed by pepper sprays and by guns loaded with rubber bullets. In fact, not only local protesters are victims. An Indonesian reporter was shot blind by rubber bullets last year on an occasion where only journalists were present on a footbridge. Human rights watchers were detained, accused of being running dogs of foreign power, and being charged for obstructing the police. Not only so, volunteer first aiders were targeted and arrested, and that the injured were being delayed for treatment. The police, by concealing their appearance, which was against existing regulation and international law, they were able to escape from legal responsibilities because their identities were not verifiable. Despite the mass arrest and oppression, Hong Kongers continue to voice out our demands, showing our determination for democracy and freedom. The 12th of June marks the anniversary of the anti-extradition bill movement. There were protesters all over the street chanting 5 demands, not one less, and liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time, and singing glory to Hong Kong, our Hong Kong anthem. Even though CCP is encouraging Hong Kong's freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, Hong Kongers stand up and show no fear in protecting our home. It had become much more difficult to organize protests or street booths due to the large deployment of police on the streets and the prohibition on group gathering in the name of fighting the Wuhan virus, the pandemic. Hong Kongers, however, is not giving up. The national security law is targeting activists like me, Joshua Wong, Brian Leung, trying to prevent ourselves in spreading the message that Hong Kong's autonomy is significantly in danger. Hong Kong's special status is a right growth for CCP to conduct illegal activities like accessing sensitive technologies from our Hong Kong companies. CCP purchased the first aircraft carrier from a sensitive technology registered in Hong Kong in the 1990s. 20 years ago, the Free World invited China to become a member of WTO because they believed the economic development and interaction with the Free World can democratize China. But obviously, this is not the case. China did not democratize, but developed into an authoritarian regime. We can see extensive monitoring system, social credit system placed in different Chinese cities. CCP even built massive concentration camps in Xinjiang to detain Muslims in the name of re-education. The evil CCP did not only oppress freedom, liberty within their territories, but extending their reach with the use of economic activities. The Belt and Road Initiative, the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, with the strategic plans for China to control other countries' infrastructure. Many developing countries have fallen into debt trap created by the Belt and Road Initiative. Sri Lanka had to cease support to CCP for 99 years to repay the debt. China did not only plan to control infrastructure in third world countries. CCP also tried to access the infrastructure of developed countries like the UK by using Huawei, the 5G technique. Chinese companies is responsible to build a nuclear power plant for UK, and Huawei is one of the potential partners in building the 5G network in Europe. CCP is aiming at overseeing energy security and network system. The free world should stay aware to such threat. The free world worries standing up against China undermines economic ties as China is one of the biggest markets in the world. But this pandemic had exposed the evil and unreliable nature of the CCP, showing a long-term economic relationship will not be mutually beneficial. When the COVID-19 broke out in Wuhan, the CCP did not release information to WHO and other countries, even though Taiwan and 8 Chinese doctors had warned that COVID-19 could be transmitted between people. CCP arrested the whistler and delayed admitting such facts, which undermines other countries' preparation work. Chinese also stored PPE and sold it to Italy and other countries for huge profits. China did not only refuse to take up responsibility in intervening the free flow of information, but smear the US and Italy as the origin of COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic significantly damaged the global economy, but this is also a chance for the free world to withdraw from relying on China. Japan and US are preparing to retreat Chinese production lines to domestic production to ensure supplies. Appeasement policy is no longer a solution. Former British Prime Minister Chamberlain had told us that appeasement policy does not work out on evil regime. I hereby urge the free world, including EU and democratic countries, to stand with Hong Kong and fight for freedom. There are a few things that the free world can do to preserve the freedom and stand with Hong Kong. Setting up the Global Magnitsky Act and sanction Chinese and Hong Kong officials that undermine Hong Kong human rights and autonomy is also a way to contain CCP and encroaching Hong Kong's autonomy. This is crucial to signal CCP that the free world countries will act to preserve the freedom in their country and Hong Kong. Cancelling Hong Kong's special status, as the US government did, is also another method to warn CCP that encroaching Hong Kong's autonomy is totally unacceptable. Last but not least, the free world should ban Chinese companies taking part in any kinds of infrastructure projects, including transport system, power plants, 5G network. Chinese infiltration through economic activities and infrastructure projects had taken place in third world countries. Infrastructures related to national security should be safeguarded from CCP's hand. These measures will signal and create pressure to the CCP that undermining human rights and freedom is unacceptable to the free world, as well as preserve freedom and democracy in the free world. This is my speech. Thank you for your attention and thank you for your care to Hong Kong. Thank you.